I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Packard Foundation and what our strategy is, and then leave you with a few key issues that are really keeping us up at night, and hope that you'll think about them with us going forward. We've been in this business for 50 years. In fact, this is our 50th year, and we're celebrating with an anniversary. We're pretty excited. But most of all, I'm quite proud, having been in this field for a long time, that our first check was for reproductive health and rights. Now that first check came from Los Altos, California, which is where we sit. We also sit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in New Delhi, India, in Karachi, Pakistan, and we make a huge effort to listen to all of you, and to listen to the women and the girls around the world. We've spent the last year and a half redoing our strategy. Now, it's something foundations do frequently, and I want to tell you a little bit about the things that informed us and then where we're headed. We have long cared about reproductive health and rights, and our board basically reaffirmed that. They said this continues to be important to us. As we sat back and thought about how we wanted to go forward, we looked at a number of things. We looked at the youth bulge, at the fact that there are more young people than ever before, and most of them are in developing nations. We know that if we don't meet the needs of those young people, particularly with sexual and reproductive health, it will change the course of our globe. We looked at the fact that there is significant attention right now to access to family planning. I think everybody in this room has heard about and thought about FP 2020. We're supportive. We think it's a good move. But we're also seeing it with a bit of caution. So that informed our strategy. We looked at the global processes. What's happening with the MDGs? What's happening with ICPD? And we were very mindful of that. And we looked at healthcare reform both in the US and around the globe, and became very aware that if we're not careful, reproductive health will get left behind. So those were some of the things that we thought of as we went forward. We ultimately reaffirmed our work. And when we think about our work in reproductive health, we think about a continuum of issues. So we start with our young people. We care about delaying early pregnancy and delaying early marriage. We care about comprehensive sexuality education and youth-friendly services. We think about family planning and contraception in the context of good reproductive health, and we think about safe abortion. And we believe that we can't pull out any one of those things, that we have to think about them all of a piece. Now I want to highlight a few of the things that we're thinking about under those categories as we go forward. When we think about comprehensive sexuality education, we think about a gendered lens. And that we know the best sex ed out there raises issues of gender. It raises issues of violence, and it attends to where young people are in their communities. We also know that if we care about information and education, we need to think about where young people are. So we're thinking a lot about young people in schools, but we're also thinking about what we're naming Sex Ed Plus. What's happening outside of schools, whether it's online or in the community, and where do we reach young people? When we think about family planning and contraception, we are very clear that we don't just want to focus on family planning. We know that with FP 2020, there has been a lot of emphasis placed on married women. It's important to reach married women. We also know that it's critical to reach girls and younger women who are not married. And I've had many young people say to me, I want contraception, I want birth control, but I'm not ready to plan my family. So don't talk to me about family planning. We're very mindful of that language. And as we think about abortion, we're thinking about medical abortion, we're thinking about mid-level providers, and we're thinking about stigma. Those all are the issues that are top of mind. Now, I want to talk about a few issues that are keeping us up at night. As we have done our work on all of our issues, we have long attended to access to quality care. We are now changing the word that we're underlining. And I would say that if there is one or two words that really are emblematic of our new strategy and where we're thinking forward, one of them is quality. So I hope that you will take that away with us. Now, why quality? Well, first of all, we believe it's a fundamental human right and a fundamental women's right. So that's number one. But number two, we believe that from a practical stance, if we want to increase our numbers, if we want to get more women to have access to modern contraception, we have to improve quality. We know that that number, that 120 million women that FP 2020 wants to reach includes a large number of women who have actually had modern contraception and they've discontinued. And we know that discontinuation rates are not for the reasons we all expect. They're not largely because it's too far to travel to a clinic or because it costs too much money. They are largely because a woman's had side effects and nobody's talked to her about them. Or a woman has a health scare and nobody's addressed those issues. They're largely because we have not met women where they really want to be met. So, quality is inspired both from a rights issue and from a practical issue. Now, what do we mean by quality? We mean that we think about care from a woman's perspective. That we think about her wanting to go to a clinic where she's treated with integrity, with respect, where it's clean, where it's safe, where she has multiple choices of methods, and where somebody's counseling her and talking to her about where she is in her reproductive health life and what her needs are for that moment in time. Now, many people like to say to me, you know, that's awfully ambitious. And it must be what you can do sitting in Los Altos, but it's certainly not what we can do here. And what I like to say is that we have to be aspirational. So I invite all of us to think about the care that we want for somebody in our life. For me, it's what I want for my niece. For others of us, it's what we want for our kids, for our grandkids, or for the girl next door. And we may not get there tomorrow, but we need to aspire to one level of quality and take incremental steps towards that aspiration. So quality is keeping us up at night. The second item is issues of scale. We've all been involved with evaluations of projects that have come out very well. And I think sometimes the road is littered with really good evaluations of pilot programs. But they don't make it where we want to make it. They don't make it to the hardest to reach women and girls and the communities that are most marginalized. And they don't make it to scale. And I think we've had a fundamental expectation that government is going to take us to scale. And then, of course, they're going to look at our programs and say, yes, we want to implement that. So I think our challenge is twofold. One, it's to figure out how to better engage government from the get-go, so that they are with us, they're caring about our issues, and they're watching our evaluations as we go along. And then two, we need to begin to think what happens if government isn't going to scale with us. And we need to work on both angles. Now, the third issue that's keeping us up at night is where we go from here. Who are our next leaders, and how do we better engage young people? Critical to our strategy are services for young people and making sure that we really understand what a youth-friendly service is. I can't tell you how many people talk to us about youth-friendly services, but we don't really know what young people want. Also critical to us is young people as movement builders. Now, I think the bottom line of all of this is that we need to listen carefully. We've been in a few situations lately where the adults like to say, we want to know what young people think. We're here to listen. And then I have watched those same adults not really comfortable with the answer. And so they shut down the conversation. Well, our view is that we can't shut down those conversations. We have to keep our ears open. Now that means, perhaps, we're not going to like what we hear, or we may not like how the young people want to take our movement forward. But we have to be mindful that they are our next leaders, and I believe that for the most part, they are our inspiration. One of the things about this conference that struck me immediately was how well you have done at engaging our next generation. And it's been really exciting to come to sessions. Huge congratulations on that. Really exciting to come to sessions and hear from and see so many young people. So I'm going to end with a little challenge. In the last session, this morning's plenary, we were lobbied a bit. And we were told and reminded that for many of the youth-led organizations, their budget's about $20,000 US. And that to go to New York to be a part of many of these processes, it's probably about $5,000, if that could be a low bill. And so that was put on the table for us all to think about. So I think our challenge, the challenge to each and every one of us, is to figure out how many young people it would take, with what message, to get all those people sitting in New York to come to us and to listen to us. Now it's a hard challenge, because we know, of course, they like to sit in that UN General Assembly, and at their various other places. They're now all sitting in Davos in Switzerland. But I think we have to raise our voices loud enough, become powerful enough, figure out who the unlikely partners are to draw into this conversation, such that people are listening to young people, and they are showing up for us where we are. That's what we're up to and thinking about at Packard. Thank you so much for inviting us, and bravo for a really good conference.